afternoon, everybody. It is the Lawn Gnome, and welcome to your February 2018 episode of Out of the Vault. If you are new, first of all, let me say welcome. It is a pleasure to have you, and for all of you returning, it is always great to have you guys back so we can talk a little bit of Disney Pixar, or Studio Ghibli films. So today, I've actually got a really special review to talk about with you guys because it's based on a very special film. It is the fourth Studio Ghibli film from 1988. Now, some would refute that and call it the second one, and some would refute that and call it the third one, because we all know that even though many of us refer to Nausicaa Valley of the Wind as the first Studio Ghibli film, it is not, because it was not under the Studio Ghibli name at the time. The first one was actually Castle in the Sky, but these days we refer to Nausicaa as the first one, and the reason why it could possibly be the second one is because it was released in the exact same year as My Neighbor Totoro. And of course we're going to be talking about Grave of the Fireflies, and the reason why this movie is so impactful to me, alongside with the rest of the world, is, in 1988, it was the first of two anime films released in the United States. Along with Grave of the Fireflies, we're talking about Akira, and I didn't even know, when I first heard about Grave of the Fireflies, that this in fact was a Studio Ghibli film. I didn't know who Hayao Miyazaki or Isao Takahata were, or the legacy that they had already created, because it wasn't until 2001 until the United States, as a mainstream, actually knew who Miyazaki and Takahata were. But when it came to anime, especially to anybody that was trying to learn the true landmarks of anime in history, it always went to Grave of the Fireflies. People say that it is the greatest anime film of all time. Some people classify it as the greatest animated film of all time, and there are even some major critic names in the United States that refer to this movie as the greatest war film of all time. And I've got to say, this is one of the greatest films that I have ever seen, period. It is hard to believe that this subject matter could actually have been decided to be put into an animated film, especially a Ghibli film, because when you take a look at names like Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, this is a very dark, dismal, heavy-hitting, emotional film with some very light-hearted and wonderful things to see. It is the story of a brother and sister named Seita and Setsuko, who survive a firebombing from the United States in 1944 in Japan, during World War II, of course, and unfortunately, their loving mother didn't make it, and their father is still out fighting in the war. So they are taken in by their aunt's family, and through that period of time, not knowing really what to do because of all the war and the air raids and the fact that innocence has been lost, it turns out that they are more of a burden and not necessarily a privilege to take care of, and so the two of them actually go and live on their own, and through that, innocence is lost even further, even though they're trying to stay positive and stay happy, but it's just one seriously real-life situation hitting them one after the other, until the very end of the film. And let me just put it this way. In order to actually make sure that you survive watching this movie, you have to have a box of tissues by your side, because this is some of the most heavy stuff that you will ever see in a film, period. This movie is absolutely beautiful. The animation is breathtaking. The story is so incredibly deep, yet so simple at the same time. The voice acting, while I don't see it in the original Japanese, I think that it may be the weakest point of the film, but you still connect with these two children throughout their entire story, and you are forewarned for everything that is going to unfold thanks to the first couple of minutes of the film, but even when you do see that beginning, you really do want to know about how to get to point A to point B. That's how I always am. I mean, you're talking to someone who heard who died in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince before I even picked up the book, and then it was all just a matter of me wanting to read the book to see how we got to that point and why it all happened. And that's exactly how I felt with Grave of the Fireflies. But knowing what I know now about film, and knowing what I know now about anime, this film to me is the greatest, one of the greatest as far as a film as a whole. I don't know why it didn't get the credit that it truly deserved at the time. I feel that if this movie would have come out now, it would be just as praised as Your Name is right now, even though so many people do praise Grave of the Fireflies, but especially when you talk to people that I know in the YouTube community, you ask them about Your Name, they know Your Name. You ask about Grave of the Fireflies, some know it, some don't, but most of the time, most people haven't seen it. Grave of the Fireflies is a must-see, everyone, regardless of how it's going to make you feel at the end, because what you will see is nothing but a masterpiece of a film. Not an animated film, not an anime film, a film. I am going to be giving Grave of the Fireflies a 4 stars out of 4, so thank you very much for watching today. Please put your comments in the box below and let's discuss Grave of the Fireflies. And if you have not seen this movie yet, and you intend to watch it now because you saw this review, I would love to talk to you about it after you've seen it, because this is a movie that I feel more people should be discussing, because it is beautiful, regardless of the subject matter, and it truly is one of the greatest of all time. So with that, I'm looking forward to another episode of Out of the Vault, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.